So hello everyone once again. I hope you're all enjoying the fair so far and you're interacting and engaging with the seminars and employers and as many of them as possible. I'm delighted to welcome Rachel Nolan to this session today. Hi Rachel, how are you?
Hi Piers, thank you.
Rachel is the Senior Recruitment Officer at Sabbath, and today she's going to talk to you about a very interesting and unique topic, which is about teaching in Dubai. So I'm sure you're all going to have absolutely loads of questions for Rachel. So make sure you ask them all by using the chat box below, and I will try and put as many of them to her as possible. And remember, you can always upvote questions as well. So Rachel, I will now hand this over to you.
Thanks a million, Piers. So hi everyone, thank you so much for joining. So I'll be talking today about teaching in Dubai with Sabbath Network schools. I'll be giving you a brief run through of a few different aspects of working with Sabbath, teaching with us, and life over here in the Gulf region. So I'm the Senior Recruitment Officer here, so I'll be taking through all of those, and we're delighted to be part of Grad Ireland today. So we'll get started. So firstly, what will we talk about? So what is Sabbath, first of all? I'm sure you may have heard of the word or seen us in the Discovery Lounge or visit our profile today, and you probably thought, what does Sabbath mean in general? So I'll be going through exactly where we came from, what we are, and everything like this. So you'll meet the team, you'll meet me today. Usually I have a few more members of the team, but it'll just meet me today. Then the history of Sabbath, the expansion and history of the UAE also, and how it's relevant to Sabbath as well. Our history in Sabbath in the UAE and our educational system. Then I'll be talking about the requirements of teaching with us and the benefits of working with us as well. And then of course there'll be time at the end, so get your questions in and I'll do my best to answer them for you. So first of all, what is Sabbath? So it is a global education network. There's 20 countries, or we have schools in 20 countries across 5 continents with over 70,000 students and over 8,500 employees worldwide. So there's a strong connection with Ireland. We've been hiring Irish teachers since 1976. Me, as an example, I actually started my career in Sabbath in 2016. I joined as a teacher in a place called Uae, which is in Abu Dhabi. So I was teaching English and science. I'm actually a science graduate myself from NUIG. So I came out to teach science. I said, okay, look, I'll do 1 year, and I'm here 5 years later, still in the UAE, still working with Sabbath. So it's definitely been a great opportunity for me to gain experience. I hadn't actually any teaching experience before I joined. And I gained, through the training that they provide and free teaching itself, I gained so much experience in not just teaching, but many different aspects and skills within the school. And as you can see now, I'm working in different departments, so there's great prospects for anyone who's interested in joining the Sabbath Global Network. So we've been hiring Irish teachers since 1976, and at the moment now we're starting our campaign to recruit for the next academic year, starting in August 2022. So firstly, I'll give you just a brief overview of myself. I know I already mentioned that I graduated from science, so I'm from Galway, and I worked with Sabbath as a teacher for 2 years in the beginning. So you can see here myself with my class and my students. And one thing I wanted to mention about Sabbath, and just kind of to give a personal touch as well. So you can see in the picture here in the middle, that was when I first started in 2016. Fresh from college, I started with a group of Irish and other nationalities. We were in the first week of our training in Uae. So one thing that is great about Sabbath is that you actually have a ready-made group of friends when you start. There's a group of you that start out together, teaching, learning from each other. And you can see on the right, we had Christmas dinner together, things like that. And then the next thing as well is obviously the opportunity to travel. So I've visited about 20 countries since I actually started working with Sabbath. Well, not just Sabbath in general, but I started working in this part of the world. Some countries are more accessible to you, and you have the holidays as well, which are paid, which is nice. So you can see I visited Egypt, India, America, when skiing, things like that. So you have holidays throughout the year. You get a chance to obviously travel with a big group of people. You can see a Limerick jersey there in at the Taj Mahal in India. So it's a great opportunity to gain experience, travel, and start off your teaching career as well. So I'll go back to the history of Sabbath. It started in a small town in Shuaifat, Lebanon. There was a priest named Tanya Assad, and who has been described as an outspoken Irish woman, Louisa Proctor. So that's where the connection to Ireland actually started, and they founded a school for girls in the village of Shuaifat, Lebanon. Now, together they had a vision and ambition to bring education to students from all backgrounds to make university education accessible to all. So they started out with a school for girls, but it soon expanded into a co-education school and just got bigger and bigger over the years. So we have a 135-year track record as it started in 1886, and we're still going strong today to make sure that the philosophies, the beliefs and values are still in place within our schools. So the Sabbath Philosophy, it revolves around the firm belief that a university education is academically accessible to most students rather than only a select few. We want to make sure that we help the students reach their full potential, keep going with their lifelong learning after they leave Sabbath, and make sure it's at an affordable cost. So at the end of the day, our goal is for the students to excel and be the best that they can be. So after the expansion within Lebanon, Sabbath in general decided, okay, we're ready to expand internationally, to start new opportunities outside of Lebanon for students worldwide. So what actually happened was they were traveling to Saudi Arabia in the 1970s, the early 1970s, and they stopped over in Sharjah in the UAE for refueling, and since then they never left. So they actually opened the first school in Sharjah, where I am today, in 1976. So it's been 45 years now since that school opened. When it first opened, there was only about 25 teachers and 17 students. Today, there's about 4,500 students in the school, and we've actually opened a second branch in Sharjah. So the history and expansion of the UAE. So why did they start to expand the Sabbath network within the UAE? Well, the UAE only joined the 7 emirates, which are now part of the UAE today. The rulers of these emirates came together to form a union in 1971. And since then, the UAE has seen tremendous expansion in so many industries: trade, tourism, and of course, education. And this year in particular is the 50th anniversary of this happening, and it's the Golden Jubilee. Huge deal to see as well how far they've come in many aspects in the last 50 years compared to many other countries who have a history of hundreds of years. So firstly, just to show you a bit of an example of that expansion, you can see Shakespeare Road, which is named after the first ruler of the UAE. On the left in 1970, there's not much going on. You might see a few camels more than anything else. Then this is the road that would connect Abu Dhabi to Dubai and Sharjah. And today you can see one small snippet of it where the Burj Khalifa is, one of the most busiest areas, I suppose, of this road. So you can just compare the expansion within the last 50 years. And also at the bottom, you can see the World Trade Center in the 1970s. Something interesting about that is when they decided to build that, it was actually an area that was outside of where the busier sector was in Dubai, which was Dubai Creek. And a lot of people commented that, it's not going to take off, it's going to be a failure. But you can see on the right-hand side that, it's really been the opposite, that this has been, you can see all of the expansion around all of the buildings. It actually was the American embassy for a few years, and it was Dubai's first skyscraper, but you can see that many of the buildings around it had actually taken over. But in the last 50 years, you can see the expansion, the huge growth around it, and it's now one of the most successful business centers in the world. We also have an example of the Dubai airport. So from 1972, it was little more than compacted sand on a runway. There wasn't many flights coming in. Emirates Airlines hadn't even been set up back then. And if you compare it then to the top right corner, there's 3 terminals. And it was one of the busiest airports, it was the world's busiest airport for 5 consecutive years. They passed 1 month 8 million passengers per month. So it just shows as well at the bottom the terminals, how they've grown over time, from welcoming a few thousand in 1960 to 90 million in 2018. So you may know yourselves as well that the UAE doesn't do things by halves. If you've ever visited, you probably have heard of, or if you haven't visited either, you've probably heard of the tallest building, the tallest, hotel, the largest shopping mall. They like to do things by, going the full whack, committing to, and very ambitiously committing to having the biggest and best of everything. So a few examples there: fastest roller coaster, longest zip line. They actually have 2 of the longest zip lines. One is the longest urban zip line, which is through buildings, and then the other one is through mountains. And then the latest addition, which you can see in the picture here, is Uae Dubai, which is the observation wheel. So It's the largest one in the world. So you can just see, you know, their ambition through everything they do. And they also came up with the vision. So the rulers together came up with the Uae Vision to match and carry on what the rulers at the beginning of the UAE had. They want to make the UAE among the best countries, among one of the best countries in the world by the Golden Jubilee, which is this year. They had several pillars set up, prosperity, knowledge, destiny, responsibility, and one of those would be education. They want to have the first rate education system in the world, and that is where Sabbath ties in, I suppose. So Sabbath in particular in the UAE, our history. So I mentioned before that our first school opened in 1976 here in Sharjah. Now we have 15 schools in the UAE and we have 18 in the region. So that also includes Oman, Qatar and Bahrain. So here is a map of the UAE. You can see all of the schools here. The one that I actually worked in as a teacher is all the way over here in the western region of Abu Dhabi called Ruwais. We're over here in Sharjah at the moment and we have our second school opening. We almost have one school in every emirate. Fujairah is the last one where we will open a school hopefully next year. And you can see also, so I mentioned that we have schools in 20 countries across 5 continents. This is just an outline of the schools that we have as part of our network this year. And here is a snippet of some of the campuses that we have in our schools. So they all have state-of-the-art facilities to make sure that all of the students' goals, both academically and non-academically, are met. So our educational system, what sets us aside from other schools? Firstly, we want to make sure that the philosophies, values and beliefs are still at the core of our education that were, you know, instilled in 1886 in the school in Shuaifa, Lebanon. So we have an educational system that's specific to our schools. It uses a balance of academics, self-development and life preparation to prepare students for success in college. It fosters a lifelong interest in learning and develops responsible world-class citizens. So we want them to be ready for the world ahead and not just focusing on the now. So we have academic goals, of course. We want to qualify every student for success in college. We want to provide them with a well-rounded education with a focus in English and mathematics. We also want them to have a solid proficiency in a second language, so they learn Arabic and French as well as English. And we want to train them in logical reasoning, critical thinking, prepare them to sustain an intellectual effort for long periods of time, and also generate excitement for lifelong learning. Non-academic goals as well are just as important. We want to uphold high standards of conduct, promote ethical and civic values, help them make informed decisions on social issues, defend convictions, reverse negative peer pressure, participate in extracurricular activities, which I'll discuss in a bit more detail in a moment, to foster tolerance, active cooperation and teamwork, become responsible and skilled citizens of the world, and develop a true understanding of people through the world through an appreciation of differences as well as similarities. So we have a few features that are part of the Sabbath network, or part of the educational system in particular. We have our own teaching methodologies that you'll see in place within every lesson. We ensure that there is follow-up and accountability for every student, so no one falls through the cracks. And we also have student-led societies ongoing throughout the year for all students of all ages. So firstly, the teaching methodology. So it's known as the Sabbath point system and it's unique to our school. So any age group, you know, KG1 all the way to grade 12, any subject, you walk into a classroom, you'll see the point system in place. So it ensures that students or the class and lesson in general has a focus on student-led learning. They're very responsible, very independent in their learning. We train them in logical reasoning and critical thinking. There's lots of group and individual work as well. And of course, we're following up with them, making sure they're being, you know, accountable for how their learning is progressing. So in this kind of cycle here, firstly, we will teach the points. The points are broken down from our own curriculum. It is a Sabbath curriculum and it's international. Then the point is taught. The class will together practice. They will also do individual practice and their work is checked as a follow-up. Then they move on to the next point. So the students have roles within the classroom as well. They can be prefects, group leaders and shadow teachers. So it's really a classroom environment where they're all involved. We also have a monitoring system. So the academic monitoring system is a follow-up method that we instill every week. It's a computer-based test to make sure that the students are learning as they should be, they're progressing as they should be. It is aligned with our philosophy that no student should fail in peace, and allows gaps in their knowledge to be pinpointed as they form. So you can see there on the right hand side that two students are engaging in academic mentoring. If a teacher sees that one student is struggling, they may be able to approach the student life organization, which I'll mention in a moment, to ensure that there is someone to help them and assist the student. There also could be extra classes, there could be reteach sessions, academic mentoring. There's many ways that we can ensure that the students will meet their goals academically. Then we also have the student life organization. So it allows the students to participate in extracurricular activities, school management and community work. So you can see a few pictures here of the students. They actually held a job fair recently within the schools to allow other students to sign up for jobs and roles around the school, part of the discipline group, the activities managers and the outreach department. We also have some examples of the students taking part in a wellness event. So they organize these events for boosting the school morale in the community with the students, with the teachers and everything like that. One example as well, last year when the schools were online, was actually an online spelling bee that they organized. So here is just some examples of the many roles and departments of the student life organization. Then you're probably wondering, what are the requirements for teaching with Sabbath? So firstly, a bachelor's degree in a relevant subject. So if you have a bachelor in education, that is also accepted. So early childhood education, English, math, sciences, social studies such as history and geography, business or economics, physical education, French, music and art. These are all subjects that are taught in our schools. Then they must be English proficient, have very strong communication skills and be able to work as part of a team, as teamwork is a skill that we want to instill within our students. And as we are part of a network of schools, we need to ensure that we're modeling that for the students as well. So what are the benefits of working with Sabbath as well? Firstly, a tax-free salary is provided. So you'll also receive an end of service gratuity when you finally finish up with the company. You will receive fully furnished rent-free apartment. Water, electricity and other utilities are free. You will also receive a free return ticket. So your flights, return flights every year are provided. There's a savings scheme that you can opt into. There's excellent career prospects. As I mentioned earlier, because it's such a huge network and you're gaining experience, within the Sabbath network, you can also easily step up, gain skills. There's so many prospects that you may not, have within a smaller network. A lot of my friends who I started working with in 2016 have become heads of department, have become academic quality controllers, which are part of the administration as well, and more. Training is provided as well. So I wanted to point out finally that experience is not required. I did not have any teaching experience when I started out working with Sabbath. You have 2 weeks of intense training before the school year actually starts. Then you'll obviously be assigned a mentor teacher. The other teachers will help you. You can shadow teachers and the heads of department will also be assisting with you. So there was so much that I learned in those first few weeks, and obviously throughout the rest of the years that I worked with Sabbath as well as a teacher. Then there's a multicultural staff of 60 nationalities. So it's a great experience to learn about those cultures. And of course, the students are from different cultural backgrounds as well. And as I've described, it is a long established company. We have a 135-year track record, and it's only, going to be expanding the network, the possibilities and prospects within that. So I just wanted to as well share teachers' experience from someone who has worked with Sabbath as a teacher, not just me.
Hi. My name is Niamh O'Connell. I've been working at Sabbath for 5 years now, and I teach primary science grades 2, 3 and 4. I just remember when I first moved out from Ireland, it was my first time moving abroad, away from home. I thought I'd settle in straight away, but I didn't. It was kind of difficult settling in and getting used to everything being new. But I just remember I had so much support from my fellow teachers. My HOD was great as well at the time. And with each day, my confidence was growing as a teacher, and I just became really comfortable in a classroom. The topics are just great in terms of the Sabbath science curriculum. The kids are just so interested, and it really helps when you're trying to teach that the kids love what they're learning about. So you do see in progress and reach that deeper understanding of all the topics being covered.
Okay, so that's a teacher that actually works in the school as well. And thank you so much to everyone for listening. And I just wanted to share with you, so here's a QR code. I hope it's clear enough that it works, but it will take you to this website, careers.sabbath.net/the UAE, and you can see all of the vacancies that we have within our schools. There are some immediate vacancies, but there's also possibilities for, well, obviously for next year, for August 2022, I would recommend to apply now to make sure that you have the best possible chance of a position with us next year. So thanks everyone for listening, and I'm open to questions.
Thanks, Rachel. That was really, really good stuff. Like a really unique and interesting topic, and it's really good to get your perspective as well. Someone who's been through the journey themselves, and have literally gone through it. It's really, really good to hear from you. Thanks everyone for all your questions. Like, I'm not sure if I'll get to all of them. I'll do my best to get to as many as possible. So there's a lot of questions around, because obviously it's a big step moving, because it's not like, maybe moving from Ireland to the UK to become a teacher, or even somewhere maybe in mainland Europe where people are used to going on, holidays. There's a little bit of familiarity there. What advice would you have to someone who's watched this presentation and is now like, you know what, this sounds like something I'd really like to do, but I am very nervous about taking the step of actually moving abroad? Would you have any advice around that, about how to help people take the plunge and actually go for it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember having the same feelings about 5 years ago. So the reason I applied was because a friend of mine actually was working in Dubai with Sabbath as a teacher. And I wasn't really sure myself. I was fresh out of college. I'd studied science. I kind of thought to myself, what do I want to do next? Do I want to continue my studies in science? But I kind of wanted to, I had itchy feet, as people say. I wanted to travel. I was very interested in teaching too, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to take the plunge in doing a master's in education, the 2 years in Ireland. So I thought this was a good opportunity for me. So I actually applied thinking I would be in the same school as my friend in Dubai. It was actually, I did apply quite late and that school was full, but there was a school like I mentioned, in the western region of Abu Dhabi called Uae, where I was offered a position. I said, okay, I was nervous, I was scared, I'd never been to this part of the world before. The furthest away I'd been was probably America. And, that's basically the same as Ireland. So I had definitely my own concerns and fears and everything. But I just said, look, I'll go for a year. If I don't like it, I'll come home. I kind of had it in my head that I wasn't really going to enjoy it. I was kind of thinking it would be a good way to, 1 year gap year and come back to Ireland, but I'm still here now, over 5 years later. I would say the best thing to do is just go for it, really. You have to get out of your comfort zone sometimes. And the thing is, as I showed earlier, you start off with a ready-made group of friends. A lot of them are Irish, so I never really felt homesick once I actually got there. You're going through the same thing as well. Everyone's there for these new experiences. These, they have the kind of same mindset to travel, to explore, and to gain experience through teaching. So I definitely would recommend to just go for it. I had the same reservations myself, but there's also so much support with the school. They're used to people coming that have never, lived out of Ireland, or some people hadn't even lived at a home before. So it's definitely a big change, but they're so supportive as well within the school.
That's great. That's probably, giving me the push now to maybe even try.
Yeah, you can apply there, Pierce, don't worry.
What about if, so someone says, yeah, this is definitely, I think for me, it sounds brilliant. I've always wanted to move abroad. I have a degree, I want to be a teacher, whatever the case may be. This sounds great. And that video there that you showed was really, really good. In terms of settling in, so you land, day one, what are maybe kind of, 3 really practical, useful tips you'd give to someone to help them settle in kind of straight away?
Okay, one of the most important ones I would say was join the GAA club, the local GAA club. Even if you don't play, I do not play any sports. I have no hand-eye coordination for that, but it was such a great way to meet people. There's tournaments. So I was in one area of the UAE, but there's GAA clubs in every single area of the UAE, not just in the UAE, but also in the other countries, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain. Every few weeks they have tournaments and you meet up with other Irish people, and not just Irish people as well. There's people, they had locals playing GA, like there's people, South African people on our team that are playing GA. So it's a great way for all nationalities to get together and have a bit of crack on the sideline as well if you're not playing. Other than that, I would say, get to know everyone that you're working with in the school, get to know any other clubs or activities that you're interested in. If there's something that you're interested in doing, it will be available in the UAE. I would definitely say that. It's such a huge expat community in general in this country, not just with teachers, but with all industries and all kind of businesses and companies. Everyone is looking for opportunities to settle in, to meet friends, to network. And as well, it's so easy to call home now. I'd say it was difficult when, my director came over 20 years ago. So it's probably difficult for him to have a chat with someone at home. But even earlier on today, I was on a Zoom with like 4 of my family members. So it's so easy to, talk to home. They'll tell you nothing has changed since the last time you were talking to them. So this, I would say, the best way to settle in is make sure you make connections with people around you that are going through the same experience, and call home as much as you can.
Yeah, again, really, really, good practical advice. I think with the improvements in technology, it has made the world a smaller place as well, which it's handy if you want to talk to family members who live a good bit away. In terms of the application process and key dates throughout the year, can you talk to me about key dates in terms of applying, and then maybe tips when it comes to the application process, what's involved, how long is it, just things like that?
Yeah, of course. So firstly, we do have a small number of vacancies immediately. So during the year, there's expansion, things like that. So I definitely would say if you're looking for something immediate, to apply right away. But also if you're looking for next year, August 2022, what happens really is if you're shortlisted for an interview, we'll ask you during the interview, what is your availability, or when would you ideally like to start? Then we'll make a note, if you're successful, we'll have a note on your application. This person is available for January. This person is available for August. Then the steps involved in the process. So if you visit this website and you apply, for example, just to English teacher, so we'll receive your application, then we will review your application, review your CV, everything like that. If you're shortlisted, we will contact you to schedule an interview. Then during the interview, we'll ask you questions about your education, your experience, and get to know you, ask you a few questions about your skills and, things like this. The interview is through Skype, so we get to meet you in that way, close enough to in person, but not as close, obviously. Usually then, before the pandemic, there would be face-to-face interviews held in Dublin and Galway in about a few months' time, so February, March time. Now this year and last year it was all online, but there would always be a second interview to finalise details, get to know your personality and things like that before we discuss the positions and locations that you would be interested in and that might be suitable for you. So the process can take a few weeks, so I definitely would recommend to apply as soon as possible. Even if you're only interested in next year, we want to make sure that everything that we have for you is ready to be able to finalize that.
Great. And then is there any, we might just finish up with this one. This might be a bit of a big question for you to answer. Are there any myths you think you'd like to dispel for people, maybe anyone who has any preconceptions about the area or the type of work, anything maybe that you thought before you went over, then you landed and you're like, actually, this isn't the case as I thought it was going to be?
100%. There are so many. First of all, a lot of people think that you need experience, you need at least 2 years experience. Say, for example, NQTs or teachers that are coming out. A lot of other schools do require that. They require a teaching qualification and they require at least 2 years of experience. But with Sabbath, as we do provide training, it's quite intense as well. You will not require, or we will not require experience or a qualification depending on the location. So that's one. Another one would be that these countries are unsafe, and I would absolutely disagree with that, completely. I have lived here as a woman for 5 years. I've honestly felt a little bit safer than I would in Ireland at times, to be quite honest with you. For example, if you go to the beach, you leave your stuff there on the sand, go into the water, come back a few hours later, whatever. That's just an example, but you just feel and that your stuff is safe. But also personal safety. I've never, don't lock doors. It's, walk around and you don't have to be, people are like, do you have to wear this? Is it very conservative? Things like that. No, as it's such, it's such an open thing. Obviously, have respect for their beliefs and cultures as you would anywhere else, but you know, you can kind of dress as you would at home with some reservations. Also with, you know, extracurricular activities, everything that you do at home, you can do here as well, mostly. I think that would be the big three really of the misconception.
Yeah,
There is
it's
more, I could go on, but I know there's limited time.
No, that's great. You know, really, really good to dispel, like I said, some of those myths. And I think it's important to touch on the GA club as well. I think many people thought you'd be able to play, you know, GA and have that kind of Irish connection still, you know, even if you move that to the other side of the world, essentially. So look, Rachel, thank you so much for your time and taking us through that. That was really, really good, really, really interesting, you know, to get your perspective on it. And I'm sure everyone watching as well, you know, really, really enjoyed that interview and the really interesting and unique career path. If anyone wants to rewatch it, or you started watching halfway through and you want to go back to the start, you'll be able to watch this on demand right here for a week, and it'll be on the God Island YouTube channel as well. As Rachel said, look, you can search the website there, scan the QR code to look at the roles in Sabbath. Sabbath also have an employer profile on God Island, so you can check it out there as well. And there's loads of information on our platform as well. So thanks very much, Rachel. Our next session is happening at 25 to 3. And that's going to be all about building your employability skills. So we will chat to you all then. Thanks and goodbye.
Thank you.